The second presentation is on correlates of emotional intelligence in undergraduates. The authors are N. Jayasekara, N. Fernando, S. Gunawardena, and B. Perera. The paper will be presented by Dr. Nadisha Jayasekara, Faculty of Medicine, University of Ruhuna.
Thank you for your kind introduction, sir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now I'm going to present the results of a study we conducted in University of Ruhuna under the topic Correlates of Emotional Intelligence in Undergraduates. First of all, let's see what is emotional intelligence is. In simple terms, it is the ability to recognize, analyze, and positively deal with environmental demands and pressures. This is an ability which we all should have to face the problems in our day-to-day life. And this is something important because emotional intelligence differs from cognitive intelligence because emotional intelligence changes throughout our life and it can be improved by training, unlike cognitive intelligence. As we all know, today the higher education is very competitive that the students have to excel in their academics while facing the problems and demands coming from their parents, peers, society, and as well as overcoming the language barriers and their independent living. So this will be an important area to improve. It has been found that there is a positive correlation between emotional intelligence and academic performances. So this is an important area where we should study because we will be able to improve the academic performances of the students by improving their emotional intelligence. Moving on to the objectives of our study, first we wanted to assess the levels of emotional intelligence in a sample of university undergraduates. Next, we wanted to examine the possible relationships between emotional intelligence and mental health, social interactions, and family relationships. Moving on to the methods we used in our study, it was a cross-sectional study we conducted in University of Ruhuna. There we selected 4 faculties in the university randomly, and in those faculties, we selected first, second, and third year students for this research. We used a self-administered questionnaire to collect data, and the total population of our sample was 987. We evaluated emotional intelligence using the Shute Self-Report Emotional Intelligence Test, which included 33 questions measured in a 5-point Likert scale. And the General Health Questionnaire was used to assess the mental health status or the psychological well-being of the students, which included 30 questions in it. Mind you, the higher scores in General Health Questionnaire correlates with the poor mental health. And to assess the social interactions of the students, we used a question in our questionnaire which asked, for how many days during the past 7 days have you been involved in any sort of social event or interactions? And the response categories we used were never, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and 5 to 7 days. In order to evaluate the family relationships of the students, we used a question again, which asked, how do you describe the relationships that you have between you and your family members? And the response categories were, always we help each other and work in harmony. Most of the time we help each other and work in harmony. Sometimes there are conflicts between family members. Most of the time there are conflicts between family members. Always there are conflicts between family members. And we got the ethical approval from the Ethical Review Committee of the Faculty of Medicine, Ruhuna. These are the results we found from our study. Our sample consisted nearly 55% of females and 45% of males. And I'm using this table to describe you how the emotional intelligence score and general health questionnaire score differed according to the gender and the year of study. As you can see, when we consider the mean score of emotional intelligence, even though there isn't a significant difference, females have a higher mean EI score than males. And when considering the year of study, the third-year students have a higher score than the students in the first, second years. And when we are talking about the general health questionnaire, males had a high mean GHQ score, which means males have low mental health status than the females. And when talking about the year of study, the third years had a low general health questionnaire, which meant that the mental health status of the third year students are better than their juniors. So there were several studies conducted overseas, and they have also found females had a higher EI score than males. And from that graph I can identify that male undergraduates are more likely to experience poor mental health compared to the female undergraduates. Next, I would like to use this graph to tell you about the correlation between the emotional intelligence score and the GHQ 30 score. As you can see, there is a negative correlation between the general health questionnaire score and the emotional intelligence score, which means the students having a high emotional intelligence have a better psychological well-being. And the correlation coefficient we found was minus 0.16, which was significantly different from 0. And we wanted to identify the association between the family relationships and the emotional intelligence. What we found was those who had high emotional intelligence score had better family relationships. And there was a significant association between the family relationships and the emotional intelligence. Next, we wanted to identify the association between the social interaction and the emotional intelligence. There wasn't a significant association between the social interaction and emotional intelligence, even though the students had high emotional intelligence score had better social interactions with their peers and family. And further, we wanted to identify the association between the cognitive intelligence and the emotional intelligence so that we use the advanced level Z score for this. Even though there isn't a significant association between these two, the students who had high emotional intelligence score had a better Z score in their advanced level examination. Now I'm going to conclude and come to the discussion of our study. As seen in many other studies, there was a positive relationship between the emotional capacities and the mental health status in this group of undergraduates, so that this provides the evidence for the validity of this should self-reported emotional intelligence test battery in Sri Lankan undergraduates. As shown in other studies, it seems that undergraduates who have high emotional intelligence capabilities are better in coping the stresses and demands coming from the peers, family, and the society, and they are less affected by those pressures. And this point is very important because good family relationships seems to be one of the important regulatory factor of undergraduates' behavior. And we need further research in this area to identify how gender, environmental factors, and their interactions are associated with emotional intelligence. And as well, as there aren't many studies conducted on the association between the cognitive intelligence and emotional intelligence, the association between emotional intelligence and advanced level IZ score is an important area for future research to investigate whether the cognitions such as memory and intelligence have a relationship with this. And these are our references. Thank you.
The paper is now open for discussion. Any questions?
Can I ask you a question? Has this, the questionnaire you used, is it validated in Sri Lanka?
Questionnaire means, madam,
The questionnaire you used for emotional intelligence?
it was not yet.
Not
well,
yet.
yeah. But this has the evidence for the validity in Sri Lankan undergraduates.
Any other questions? Yeah, you want? Wait.
So you have measured the cognitive intelligence in terms of academic performance.
Here we use the advanced level IZ score to see whether there is a association between the cognitive intelligence and emotional intelligence.
Okay, and then the same question that Madam asked, Professor Fernando asked, that what was the medium of the study? Like, was it English or Sinhala or?
Sinhala.
Sinhala.
Yeah.
So then you translated your question as?
Yeah.
But it was not validated, was it?
No, not validated to Sri Lankans. Sit down.
Thank you.
May
Yes, sir.
Solid conclusions, all right?
Yes, sir.
We change as you go on. So, better start what you have, you better carry on what you have already started.
Thank you very much, sir.
And there's another question. And you stated about the general health questionnaire. General health questionnaire GHQ 30. And the high score was when the score gets higher, it relates to the poor mental health. Yeah. And was there any cutoff point for that score? GHQ 30 and above this score indicates poor mental health, and below that point, the mental health is somewhat good. Was there any cutoff point?
For these, we use the mean value, but I don't know exactly there is a cutoff point.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Are there any more questions?